Live here at CPAC, First Class Father, former Navy SEAL, Brady Duke. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time here.
Thank you.
All right, let's start right here. How many kids do you have? How old?
5 kids, daughter and 4 sons, all 10 and under. So,
Wow, very cool. Yeah, I got 3 boys. Then we got our girl on the fourth try. Is she your last one, the girl?
she's our first one.
She's the first. You started out with the.
Yeah, she's the princess. She's not the queen, but she's the princess.
Well, it took us 4 tries to get there. All right, if you could just hit the listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
Yeah, so I was in the SEAL teams for 10 years. I did service from 2006 to 2015. I was in Afghanistan from 2009 2010. I was a sniper. I was a breacher. I also started focusing on close quarters combat as a specialty in training, and have done that since I left active duty in 2015. So I was doing that for the SEAL teams privately. I've since been doing that for law enforcement and SWAT teams around the country because I definitely believe in our law enforcement, and we definitely need to make sure that they're well equipped. And my wife and I run a ministry on reconciliation and forgiveness. And so those are kind of the things that we're doing. And I'm raising 5 kids and running for Congress. So.
Wow, very cool. Well, take me back then to the beginning of your fatherhood journey then. About how old were you when you first became a dad, and how did that experience change your perspective on life?
So my daughter is 10 now. So, I mean, I guess I was 25, 26 years old.
In the teams already?
I was in the teams. I was about to leave on my second deployment, actually. So when I left on my second deployment, she was 2 months old. But that moment when I saw my daughter for the first time was unlike anything I could have anticipated. I mean, I'm not a really emotional guy, and I was pretty overwhelmed. I was overcome with emotion. It was like something that just hit me. The responsibility, the amazingness of having a child, it was just transformative. It really called me up to really take responsibility in a lot of ways that I wasn't yet doing that. And so it's amazing.
And I think that's one of the best things about fatherhood. It kind of like forces you to grow up in a lot of different ways when you get that responsibility. And thank you for your service before I be able to say that. And one of the reasons why I bring so many military dads on is because I'm a railroad mechanic, and when I have to do like a double shift, I feel like I'm missing out on stuff, and I'm not home, and I can only imagine being halfway around the world and not being there with your kids. What did becoming a dad, did that make any influence on you leaving the military early, or did that have, what was the impact on that?
Yeah, it definitely did. It was something where I had a dream to continue my service and try to continue my service at the highest level possible. Within the SEAL teams, you can continue to apply to further programs. And so I was beginning that process. But at that time, before I got out, I had 2 kids. And I just had a deep conviction of what I thought I needed to be as a father. And I couldn't fulfill that. And so it's something I had to lay down a dream for, to be there for my kids. It's something I'm very happy that I did. I'm very fulfilled in doing. And I think we're called to do as fathers. We should be there for our kids as best as we can. It's not saying anything bad about those who do 20 years and are going away on deployments. That wasn't where I felt led to go.
Yeah, and be honest, like there's a mix between some of the dads that are military that have a good handle on the relationships, and there's some that have said it's caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So it depends on the situation. But so tell me about the top values that you hope to instill in all the kids that you have growing up.
Top values. I mean, we really, we really focus on, the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I hammer those into my kids, when they're out of line, when they're struggling, when they're down. It's like, I really try to draw on one of those things. So for my boys, a lot of times it's patience and self-control. I mean, it's like, there's so much aggression and so much competition and all that. So, we have a family Bible verse that we put to a song, and we have like a family phrase that we came up with that we can all say together. And so I think that's really important, is to have a family identity that we can lead in and say, hey, what's our family motto? Right? And for us, it's Dukes are driven by God-given purpose, truth, and power. That's something from us. We're a big family of faith, and so that's one of our things. And so I think it's really vital for fathers to say, hey, what are those things that I want to continuously to instill, and what's our motto, what is our vision, what is our focus as a family? It just helps everybody kind of stay focused. So
Yeah, well said. One of the things I would think, Brady, that's like a paradox, and I've interviewed, I think, with Gunnar Hansen. He's a SEAL that turned to becoming a pastor.
yes, I know Gunnar.
It's one of these things. It's like, how do you kind of like, as a man of faith, faith-based person, how do you juggle that in your head? Being a Navy SEAL, you guys are on the front line, you guys are at the heat of the battle. How do you kind of balance that faith with that service in the military, where you're called to, to inflict some pain on the enemy? How do you balance that as a man of faith?
Yeah, that's something that people actually ask a lot, and there's inherently, and I believe in God's character, there is justice. And when we look at, if we want any sense of rule for the world, any sense of law, there's justice. And so anything that, with what I've done overseas and what I think our military is doing overseas and law enforcement is, we don't just go after people at random, right? There is processes in place to really identify the targets that we have. And they have basically crossed lines multiple times to then justify for us to come after them. And so that's just the hard fact of there's justice to be had on this earth. And so I have a good conscience of doing exactly what I think is just by the rule of law. And so it's not murderous or anything like that. It's when there is a need to remove someone or capture someone, they had the freedom to choose well before we got there to have to earn that consequence, and it's an ugly thing, and it's a sad thing at times, but it's a reality. So.
Well, thank God for you and the guys, men and women that do this, because without you, we wouldn't stand a chance in this world. There's no doubt about that. So, and then obviously to be a SEAL, a great deal of discipline has to be in the individual and make it through all that stuff. But what kind of disciplinarian are you when it comes to being a dad? And is that different than the discipline style that you grew up with?
It is different. I think there has to be a methodology. There has to be consistency. There has to be discipline in our discipline, right? There has to be a sense of, I have to be consistent for them, because I don't want to let my emotions get the best of me and the standards change just because I've had a bad day, or I'm just being lazy and not want to enforce the rules of the home, or anything like that. So I think it's really vital that, we step up and we are that consistent, steady father who has a soft side, also has the side that says, hey, you stepped out of line here, there's consequences. And so I think from my childhood, it wasn't as consistent as I'm trying to be. And so we just have to be wise and know, like, I do my best not to correct my children by shaming them, embarrassing them. It's so easy in our culture today to just kind of think that we should do that. I think we have to be really conscious of what our kids will start to think of themselves because of how father treats them, how dad treats them. And even a lot of times, not by even what we do physically, by just a few words or the way that we act and behave towards them. I think, kids start thinking. I think kids at young ages are always asking the question, who am I? What am I worth? Why am I here? And all the interactions we have at those ages really start to develop their understanding of those questions, their answers to those questions. And so I'm really cautious and really just focused in on, hey, what am I saying? How am I saying it? How do I discipline my kids in a way that never removes their value and importance to me as their father, but always reinstates, hey, there's rules, but I love you no matter what, and I'm always here for you. So it's a challenge.
And the amazing thing is too, Brady, that I have 4 kids. Like each one of them all require a different style of discipline. You can't just use a blanket style for all of them, right? Especially with my daughter, which I'm still struggling with a bit myself. Let me turn it into now. You threw your hat into this toxic political arena that's out there. Now, listen, just like we need you guys on the front lines, we need you guys in Washington, so that maybe we don't need you on the front lines again anymore. We need some strong people in there. What made you decide to step into the political arena? What was the response from your family, or the support, or the suggestions, or how was their response when you decided to get in it?
Well, my wife's response was actually very favorable right off the bat. I took a lot of time to consider this before I even brought it to her. But the reason I did it, is in a lot of ways for my kids. I believe we should leave an inheritance for our children's children. And I think we're not on the track to do that as a country. I think each of us carry that responsibility as a father for our family individually, but you look at that as a nation and what capacity we could serve in the country. And I just have a call to serve and do that. And so I felt led to throw my hat in the ring for Congress. And My wife was on board, which was really cool. Surprisingly, I mean, other things I was looking to go overseas and do all this cowboy stuff, but it was something that my kids are really excited about. They're like, are we going to go to the White House? I'm like, probably not with this president. Maybe we'll be around there. But overall, it's been favorable. Like, the kids are excited about it, and they understand that daddy's working hard and there's a sacrifice to do big things, So.
And just to bring up that point there with your sons, like I know that sometimes, as a son myself, I used to look up to my father, and I always wanted to emulate him. As sons, we always try to get our father's respect. We want them to be proud of what we do. To be a Navy SEAL, that's a big name or a big thing to live up to impress. So do you ever have that kind of concern, or how do you kind of handle that with your sons to make sure they know they don't have to prove themselves to you? Are you working on that kind of relationship so they don't feel like, well, if I'm not a Navy SEAL, Dad ain't gonna love me no more? Like,
yeah.
You have that kind of relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have been cautious to overemphasize that history of my life, because when I left active duty, my oldest son was, still probably 5 or 6, and so they were still really young. So the other boys don't really even have a memory of me in the military. And so I've been cautious not to make it an overemphasis and be like, hey, this is what I did. It was the toppest, top of the top, whatever. And let them be them and let them grow into the men that they're going to grow into, because they're just interested in all kinds of different things. I really try to show them all areas of sports. It's not, hey, you're a swimmer because daddy was a swimmer. You play baseball because daddy played baseball. It's like, my boys are getting into jiu-jitsu. My boy wants to do BMX. Like, all different kinds of things. And so we're trying to just let them see as much as they can and be themselves. And yeah, I'm actually in the process now, because of this run, having to share more of that history with them. And so that's really intriguing them. They're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure for the young boys. My father was a used car salesman in the Bronx, so it wasn't like the bar was too high for me to hit, So, all right, so where can everybody find you? Where do they go to support the campaign? And how is the campaign going?
The campaign is going well. We are out front financially from the rest of the pack. I've been on Leader McCarthy's Young Guns list now for two rounds, which is excellent, I think. And so BradyDuke.com is where they can go. It's easy. My first and last name.com. So BradyDuke.com. We need as much ammunition as possible. Just like when I went overseas, we had plenty of ammo to fight, and that contribution is how we get that done for this nation.
God bless. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. Last thing I want to hit you in here, Brady, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about-to-be father who's out there listening?
Man, I'm the guy that will really make it I get really focused in and intense at times. I think this is the investment that we get to make on the future of this nation and the world, is our kids. And so I think we have to make a choice of how we engage. I think we can be a dad and not be a father. I think that's really a thing, is we can be the dad who only supplies the physical needs of our children, but isn't there for them emotionally, isn't there for them spiritually, to lead them and guide them and ask their questions. And so I think it's really, ask yourself if you're going to step up to the call to be a father and answer the hard questions, because any questions we grew up with as young boys and we didn't get answered, we wish we had the answers to, and we'd rather our sons and our daughters not learn them through failure. Right? So engage with the process. Learn to be that father that wants to really lead the heart of your child and not just provide for their physical needs only. So,
very well said. I love the message. It's been an honor for me. I got to say, Brady Duke, you're a first-class father all the way. And thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time here at First Class Father.
Yeah.